Welcome back again, and I'm checking out another amp from Adam Steele's arsenal. That's Hot Pole Studios. It's the MESA Dual Rectifier Road King I. I use this a bunch on the record, and you know, everyone knows I'm a really big fan of Mesa. I used the dual rectifier live for a number of years, also the Mark V in the States, and it just sounds enormous. There isn't another amp like a Mesa Boogie. Has this big, thick bottom end, which obviously can be out of control sometimes. That's why we have to use a boost. Because without a boost, yeah, it's a little bit overkill, especially when using a 7 or an 8-string guitar. But it's better for it to be there and take it away a little bit, tighten it up, than not to be there at all. But whenever I plug into a Mesa Boogie, my face just lights up with happiness just because it's just so big and ballsy sounding through the cab. The sound's just coming through the cab and it's engulfing you. That's the best way to describe it. And there's only a handful of amps that I've heard that from. Soldano SLO, of course. That amp just feels like God too, but this most certainly has it. So I used to work in a guitar shop called Sound Control back in 2006, the London store actually, which was just below Virgin Megastore. And I used to just turn on channel 3, plug a G7 into it and just let an open D chord ring out because it just sounded so fucking good. I mean, even if I do this now, you can hear how good it sounds. Thing with the harmonics where it feels like it's coming in and out a little bit, but it's just the harmonics sort of intertwining in this really complex but awesome way that I really love about the dual rectifier. So yeah, as I said, I use this on a bunch of the songs on the record, mainly as overlays for where I wanted it to sound like a behemoth. Yeah, I just wanted to take you through it now, just so you can, if you've never tried a Mesa or you're not familiar, now the Road King's actually been discontinued, I believe, right? So yes. You can't buy it anymore since they released the multi-watt dual rectifier. And I think it's a real shame because it's such a good sounding head and quite different to a dual rectifier in many ways. Like, it's got a mixture of power tubes in the power section between EL34 and 6L6, which gives it a completely different character than a normal dual rectifier. And yes, you can have a dual rectifier with EL34s in it and or 6L6s, but combining the two to 150 watts gives it this new dimension to the mid-range. I guess, what's the right word for this? It's forward mid-range that you get from the EL34s, but it still has that huge bottom end from the 6L6s. The best of both worlds, basically. And for me, channel 3 is my favorite, but I ended up using channel 4 for the record, so it's just a little bit different than the tone that was the main guitar tone, which was a 5150 signature, Mark 1. So anyway, let's go through channel 3. It's got this dry thing, kind of like a Mark IV, but it's bigger, a little bit more gain. And the main thing to be aware of with a Mesa is the EQ doesn't really do what you expect it to. Normally when you think, I'm going to boost the bass, that you're just going to get bass. But for me, I always found that I got a little bit of mid-range with the bass control as well. And same with the presence control, the treble control. I always felt like that was adding in some of the high mids back. So I tend to cut the mids on these amps more than I would on most other amps. So let's go on in. that bottom end, it's so big, but it's definitely not as out of control as a normal dual rectifier, probably because of the L34s, the 150 watt power section too, so it doesn't have that breakup in the power section. I want to try it on vintage mode as well, because I always preferred vintage mode. Anyway, I always preferred vintage mode because the bottom end is a little bit more out of control. And if we're going to be adding a boost in front to tighten up that bottom end, we kind of want as much usable bottom end as possible, which is why I always preferred vintage mode. So here's vintage mode. That mid-range is a little bit more chewy. 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 And I kind of like it. It feels nicer to play to me. Now we've got that into a good range, I'm going to add in the Pandemonium boost. And here's what we get. You can actually add a little bit of bass back in now. Go back to modern, turn down the volume a little bit because obviously it boosts the volume between the two. Let's add a bit of mid-range back in. Sounds fucking great. Let's try channel 4. Yeah, because the first time I saw these was when John Petrucci was using them on the 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence tour when he had 3 of them in one rack. My back hurts still looking at that photo. Anyway, so this is channel 4. I've not played that riff in years. Let's try it on vintage mode. Now this one is a little bit more buttery. It's a little bit more compressed, a little bit more together, which is why I prefer channel 3. I prefer kind of like the drier sort of Mesa sound. But I still think that channel 4 sounds great. For most people, it probably sounds more together, but I like to have to work harder when I'm playing. I hit harder and I get more out of the amp, which I find that if I'm hitting a little bit lighter, it feels like I've got nowhere else to go, if that makes sense. So. I actually think for this channel, I actually prefer modern mode, but I think on channel 3, I prefer vintage mode. That's quite loud. Turn down the presence and treble a little bit. See what the gain does too when you start going up. The point where it stops fizzing, where it feels nice as well. Sounds great. Should we try to see what it sounds like with a 7? You probably see my arse. Did you see my arse? You notice at the moment I went to the 7, it brought out this frequency range in the dual rec, but we just press on this and it puts it right back in. I want to try channel 3 with the 7, because I think I will prefer channel 3. Did I switch it off?
Oh, you want that foot switch?
Ah, yes. There we go. Channel 3. Yeah, channel 3 to me sounds angrier. And it has more bottom end. You hear that, right? I mean, to be fair, the bass is almost at full. That makes me really happy. It sounds fucking great. Anyway, yeah, if you've never checked out a MESA Boogie Road King, you should do so, because even though they're discontinued, this is definitely one of the best amps the Mesa's made, along for me with the Recto recording preamp. That through a 290 is equal to, at least, with this. And special thanks to Adam Steele for letting me borrow this for the recording of our album. I wish it could stay in my presence, but unfortunately that is not the case. I doubt he will ever sell it. So I'll be looking for one of these just because I need one. It sounds fucking amazing. So I'll be doing some more videos, checking out some older heads that maybe you haven't had an opportunity to try. And
blowing up my Marshall.
I didn't do that. His Marshall blew up because it was rusting. It was old. I mean,
it's true.
He turned up the volume. I just played, you know. But I'll be checking out some more vintage gear. Well, this isn't really vintage, is it? I mean, well, actually, it is.
20 years old.
It's 20 years old. It's vintage now. How old does a car need to be before you'd have to pay tax on it anymore? Come on, mate. But anyway, yeah, I'll be checking out more vintage heads and older heads that maybe you haven't had an opportunity to try. And hopefully it'll give you a good indication into what they actually sound like and what they actually do. So in the meantime, I will see you guys later. Let me know what you think of the tone in the comments and anything that you want me to try. I'll see you next time. Peace.